Hello everyone, Thunder Steve here, and today we will be featuring a mono blue spirit deck and explorer. The list is in the description below. I'm going to talk about the general game plan and some of the cards, and then we'll play a couple games with it. So, let's go. The first thing to talk about here, or the general idea of the deck, is we have a lot of evasive creatures, a lot of them with flash, and then we also support those creatures with counter magic. So we want to get our stuff early while interacting with our opponent's cards on our own terms. Also, this deck is very, very mana efficient. Everything costs 3 or less mana. So you're going to, specifically against more control-y decks, be able to use your cards in a much more strategical manner than a lot of other strategies because you're interacting on a very specific axis. So with all that being said, let's talk about the creatures. So we have a new to explore spirit, which is Mausoleum Wanderer. So it's a 1/1 with flying. And whenever another spirit enters battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. So what this creature is doing, all the spirits, like a lot of tribal decks, they work in conjunction with each other. And so with if you cast maybe a Supreme Phantom, which we'll get to, this will go from a 1/1 to a 3/3, and you're attacking for that much damage on turn 1. That's a lot. But what is also good with Mausoleum Wanderer is it not only provides a fairly quick clock, it also has an ability where you can sacrifice it to counter target instant or sorcery spell unless an opponent pays X. So Mausoleum Wanderer can also protect your other spirits by countering really, really problematic and powerful removal. So we have Mausoleum Wanderer. Then we also have Spectral Sailor, which is a 1/1 flying flash. And then you can, late in the game, use extra mana to draw cards, which is going to be useful. And then we also have Ascendant Spirit, which does not have flying by itself, but can get flying. And this is a spirit you can cast on turn 1, right? Or later on in the game. And then you can always wait to pump up Ascendant Spirit during your opponent's turn. And that's how, in general, you're going to want to use it. You want to leave up your mana for your opponent to cast stuff during their main phases that you can bounce or counter. And then if you never use that mana, you can then use your snowlands to make Ascendant Spirit a 2/3, then a 4/4, and then bigger from then on. And then we have Chains, which is a 2/1 spirit with flash. When it enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof. And so what this does, very similar to Mausoleum Wanderer, is it allows you to protect your creatures from opponents' removal and interaction. And again, a lot of these cards have flash. So you are forcing your opponent to be proactive because if they don't do anything during their turn, you can just be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to cast my Rattlechains. I'll wait to counter your stuff. And then we also have Shacklegeist, which is a 2/2 for 2 with flying. And you can tap 2 spirits you control to tap target creature. And so Shacklegeist does a lot of things too, where it allows you to be a little control-y for resolved creatures. Sometimes, like maybe against angels, your opponent is having some cards that you can't get through. And at the end of your opponent's turn, you can maybe cast 1 or 2 additional spirits with flash to tap down a couple of blockers and then go in for lethal in the air. Supreme Phantom is one of the reasons why this deck is really, really powerful. You're able to just pump up your other spirits. +1/+1 on a 2 mana lord is always good. And then we have Nebelgast Herald, which is a 2/1 spirit with flash. And when it enters the battlefield, you can, or another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, you can tap target creature. And just like with Shacklegeist, that's good for not only tapping down creatures that can block your own stuff, but you can tap opponents' really big lethal threats during the attack phase so they can't ever attack you. Then I have a one of Brazen Borrower here, which is a flat. It's not a spirit, but it is a flash creature that can interact with your opponent's stuff in ways that a lot of the other cards in this deck can't, by bouncing something and then being a threat in its own. But so in addition to the creatures, we also have our counter magic and interaction. So we have Geistlight Snare, Lofty Denial, Spell Pierce as counter magic for opponent spells. I'm running Slip Out the Back as a one of here. It probably could be a Brazen Borrower. Some of these non-spirit spells could be a little interchangeable to what you're seeing in the metagame, but I just like it as a way to, cheaply protect our own creatures, and maybe if you need to, you can phase out an opponent's creature when you really, really absolutely need to go for lethal or something like that. And then one of the other really, really powerful cards in this deck is Curious Obsession, which is one of the reasons why this deck is very, very powerful. It's an aura that you put on a creature, and whenever that creature deals combat damage, you draw a card. And Curious Obsession is a card that can snowball very, very quickly. If you can get one hit with it in early on, maybe on turn 2 or turn 3, you can just almost guarantee the win you have, because now you're drawing cards and you can interact with whatever your opponent is doing, and they're never going to be able to resolve a way to deal with the creature that has Curious Obsession on it. And so it's just you're gonna be drawing 2 cards a turn, and your opponent's not gonna be able to keep up. Ideally, anyway. And then for lands, we are running snow lands because Faceless Haven is a spirit when you activate it, and so it gets pumped up by things like Supreme Phantom, and it's just something to, it's just really, really good. It's a really good creature anyway. It was banned in Standard for a reason, and so it's here. And with all that being said, let's see if we can go play some games. Okay, we'll keep this hand. We have a turn 1 spell, followed by counter magic on turn 2 and 3, which is kind of what our deck wants to be doing. Would love... No, I don't know if I would love anything. Okay. Cauldron Familiar. Interesting. So now what I think I want to do is we'll go for Supreme Phantom here. Our opponent needs interaction here, because then we get to untap with 2 counter spells. And if our opponent doesn't put a lot of pressure, which our opponent seems to have missed a land drop, we're in a pretty good spot. Because hopefully our opponent won't cast anything else for the rest of the game. And if our opponent doesn't draw a land to do that, then I too am okay with that. Deadly Dispute will counter. I mean, yeah. Okay, we have our first couple of turns. We have plays for our first couple of turns, right? But I don't know what we're going to do, and that's one of the cool things about this deck. We get to Ascendant Spirit turn 1. And then, do we, on turn 2, make it a 2-3? Do we cast Shacklegeist? Do we Supreme Phantom? Or do we keep up mana for Geistlight Snare? There's a lot of different decisions here. And I think I'm going to go here, because now I don't know if we do have to tap out ever again, or we can keep up Geistlight Snare and Ascendant Spirit for a while. Well, there we go. So, I still think I'm fine with what we did and how we did it. That's not good. At least Geistlight Snare should counter the first Teferi we have to deal with. Oh, our opponent, I wonder what our opponent was scared of. Our opponent may have not been scared of anything, but... I would love to... Oh, wow, that's... really good. Really good. Opponent's gonna have so much mana next turn. Oh, and a Foretold there. Makes it so much harder for us to do anything. That's relatively fine. Our opponent's at 7. We can Geistlight Snare whatever this is twice, and depending on what we draw, we could have lethal. Ideally, our opponent taps out, though. Growth Spiral, fine. Fine. Alrune's Epiphany gets countered. Oh, beautiful. GG. Okay, everyone. We have a turn 1 play with either Wanderer or Spirit, followed by Curious Obsession. It looks like our opponent's on mono red, which might be a little bit of a problem for us, because their spells kind of cost just as much as ours. There's really no mana advantage we have in this matchup. And yeah. So let's hope things go well. I think maybe, depending on what our opponent has, the Supreme Phantom might be okay. We're not going to counter that, because we just need to take all this damage, and then maybe the Supreme Phantoms can do enough. Chandra dressed to kill. Okay.
I hope you like your hors d'oeuvres extra crispy.
Adding mana.
Watch me heat up the dance floor.
So we can counter the Skewer with Mausoleum Wanderer, and that's what I think we need to do here. We can Curious Obsession. This is gonna be rough, but maybe we can attack, like, find something to do here. And maybe we just... This is rough. I don't know if this Supreme Phantom is good, but next turn we can kill the Chandra. If our opponent doesn't have anything, maybe we can stabilize, but I don't know. Ramanop Ruins also makes our life total a little precarious. But we do have a 2/4 blocker. Oh no, this Skewer is very bad. Opponent's deciding whether to point it at our face or the Supreme Phantom. Alright, we go to 3 here. Alright, we need to send both at this Chandra, I think, because otherwise a land will kill us.
Ugh. Next time, I'll wear more comfortable shoes.
Because Chandra deals 1 damage to us, and then that. Ooh, our opponent did not attack. I think I would have attacked if I was the opponent. Alright, if we do this, it's a 2-turn clock. And we have the Lofty Denial now, and I think we might win. Yeah. GG. We have a turn 1 Ascendant Spear, followed by... We can keep up Lofty Denial and Rattlechains. So this is kind of fine. We don't have to do anything on our own turn for a while. So this is the one of the hands where we can be a little more reactive and patient and wait to see what our opponent is doing. Mono green? Oh, they're not mono green? If our opponent blocks, we can make Ascendant Spirit 2-3. But Lofty did not... Ooh. Depending what our opponent does, we can attack the Karn. Yeah, do you know, I don't hate that. We don't need to counter it. We can probably attack it. And then counter whatever our opponent does next. And this means we get the Rattlechains out, and Rattlechains gives all of our other spirits flash. So it means our Ascendant Spirits can also play into that larger plan of wait and be reactive. Because right now we're going to flash back Rattlechains and then attack Karn for 3. And then we have Lofty Denial up. So I think we're like kind of fine. We can put 3 at Karn. And then we can wait. And again, we do not have to tap out at all. I think here we want to Lofty Denial. We could counter the triggered ability, but I'm not in love with that plan. So this is where things can get a little tricky, because we have no more counter magic. So our opponent can start doing a lot of stuff that we can't interact with, and we don't have that quick of a clock or a lot of pressure yet. So we can flash out Shacklegeist. I can pump up that. Be a 2-3. And now... Alright, I'm gonna... Ascendant Spirit. Use Shacklegeist to tap Golos. And this time we can ensure that we get attack for 2 on the ground. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4... Oh, our opponent gains 2 life. That's really important. But 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is 8 damage. I guess we'll Golos, or Geistlight Snare the Nissa. And we're elves. Alright, our opponent has lots of stuff on the ground that we can't counter. Let's make this a 4-4 Angel. We do have the Spell Pierce if our opponent... 1, 2, 3... Our opponent only has 8 mana, so we can counter Ugin, which we will. And then we can tap that. And GG. That was close. Thank you for watching me play Mono Blue Spirits and Explorers. I know some of those games were really, really quick, but with this deck, sometimes that does happen, so... Anyway, this deck is very, very for a specific type of player to really, really do well with. And so if you want to get better at Magic, I would highly recommend playing decks like this. It really does require you to assess the different board states and deck matchups and to play accordingly. Because this deck can get really, really punished if you play around the wrong spell or play into the wrong creature or removal. And you really need to learn to prioritize when you can be aggressive versus when you need to hold out your counter magic for different things. And you need to, that comes with a lot of time and practice of learning different matchups and learning how to really get the most value of all out of all your cards as much as you freaking can. And so this deck is for people who like doing that, but also people who want to maybe learn how to get better at evaluating those types of things. Because it is, this deck can sometimes be very, very annoying to play against. A lot of people hate these types of decks, but they're really, really more annoying against better players because people who don't know what they should or shouldn't counter or what they can resolve versus can't resolve, you will have a much easier time. But against really, really good players, this deck just, it really, really improves that much in how good it is. So I would recommend practicing with this deck if you want to do that. But what do I know? And with all that being said, if you haven't already, you should like, comment, subscribe. Those are great ways to support me. You can watch me play live at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve. And yeah, I hope this video was at least somewhat good. And regardless, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon wherever you are. And thanks for watching. Bye.